Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
A month after devastating earthquakes rocked the tiny Caribbean nation of Haiti, relief efforts continue at a Pope Air Force Base and Fort Bragg in Fayetteville. Recently, videographer Mike O'Connell and I accompanied a crew as they dropped off supplies and brought back some very special passengers. In part one, we focus on the work of the men and women from Pope Air Force Base during Operation Unified Response. These are the faces of orphan children at the International Airport in Port-au-Prince, waiting to board a U.S. Air Force C-130 cargo plane that will fly them to the United States. They will leave behind unimaginable devastation. Some are scared, others are excited, all are exhausted. These are the men and women charged with bringing the children safe and sound out of the earthquake-ravaged country. For some, it's their first flight of humanitarian aid to Haiti. Others have been several times. All are moved by the experience.
This one is a little different because it's orphans. It's not people with parents, and we don't know where their parents are or what's going to happen to them next. So it's a little different because it was all kids.
The mission we accompanied to Haiti began before dawn from Pope Air Force Base in Fayetteville. The craft and crew came from Maxwell Air Force Base out of Alabama. We're getting ready to board the C-130. As you can see behind me, there's the equipment that is being loaded on. There's everything from water to food to equipment. It should take us about 4 hours to get to Port-au-Prince. Dozens of flights like this one have taken off from Pope following the first deadly earthquake that hit the tiny Caribbean nation on January 12th.
For us, it's kind of a cold start. Started on Wednesday, the 13th of January. We started to get information about potentially some planning efforts that were going on with the Army. And we immediately stood up here on the Air Force Base. We stood up our planning cell.
Colonel James Johnson, the commander of the 43rd Airlift Wing, says within 24 hours of the first earthquake, Pope's airfields became a hub of activity. A revolving door of planes landing and taking off, an around-the-clock operation of people packing and preparing thousands of pounds of food, water, medical supplies, and equipment. The base also became a nucleus for landing and refueling aircrafts, not to mention mobilizing and deploying thousands of troops.
We had active duty reserve, C-130s, C-17s. We had C-5s coming in here as well from all over Texas and Delaware, Arkansas, you name it.
Captain Lisa Larry and Staff Sergeant Daryl Bradley were the first U.S. Air Force aeromedical crew that arrived in Haiti. They were both about half an hour away from Pope when they got the call. From the time you got the call to the time you took off, a couple hours?
2 hours. Just under 2 hours.
Have you ever done that before?
Not that fast.
No.
I'd say that's a record.
But imagine the urgent and dire need on the ground. The country's physical and emotional infrastructure has been toppled, and even before the deadly quake, Haiti had already been on shaky grounds after decades of economic and political unrest. But on January 12th, any potential progress came to a sudden halt. The country became crippled and unable to sustain itself.
There's no infrastructure down there. There's hardly any medical care, besides all the volunteers.
Because of the close proximity of Fort Bragg, Pope was the perfect place from which to get the 82nd Airborne Division off and on the ground in Haiti as quickly as possible. And they did, at a faster and larger scale than ever before.
I think it's very historic that we actually moved a brigade combat team, which has never been done, completely by air. And that was done in the 10-day period, which is moving all of their trucks, their vehicles, their cargo, a lot of it outsized cargo that requires a C-17 to move.
Because it was such a crisis, we had to get a lot of stuff down there very, very quickly. So we had to go to basically a crisis type of outload where we were preparing and inspecting and certifying and loading vehicles and cargo almost nonstop.
Cargo like these pallets of prepackaged meals that will be loaded on the next flight out. Some will go to feed hungry Haitians, others to refuel U.S. soldiers.
This is all meals ready to eat inside of here.
Thousands of pounds?
Yes, ma'am. About 1,800 pounds worth of supplies.
On a trip we took 3 weeks into the mission, the food was unloaded at the airport in Port-au-Prince, but sometimes they are airdropped. Strategically, where are these items dropped?
Strategically, they have several drop zones throughout Haiti, and it'll be wherever they need the supplies, closest to wherever they need the supplies safely. Obviously, because of the weight of these, we don't want the civilian populace in the drop zone area, because if an 1,800-pound pallet fell on them, somebody would get crushed.
The number one concern for us during this mission, obviously, was security of the aircraft when they were going down there.
Major Eric Horst is a top cop on base. He says uncertainty on the foreign terrain and lack of security on the ground required that Ravens, highly specialized men and women responsible for aircraft security, to be on high alert.
Ravens were out there and they kind of stood out to the outer perimeter of the aircraft and made sure that nobody came too close. Only the people that were authorized to come up and move cargo and move passengers on and off.
Master Sergeant Denise Knoll, a Raven, arrived in Haiti 24 hours after the first quake.
You just knew from the mood with everything happening, these folks were in distress and they were wanting to get out of there. So that, as a security sense, kind of heightened us a little bit because of the possibility that somebody might want to try to get on our aircraft.
In the week and a half following her first flight, Sergeant Knoll went on 4 more missions, bringing troops and supplies to Haiti and also bringing evacuees out.
It was heartbreaking. It absolutely was. All the babies and a lot of the fathers that came back without the mothers, knowing the impact of what they went through, the family members they lost. A lot of them never flew on a plane, just the safety for getting them out of there, as well as knowing that their whole life had been shattered.
These aeromedics have treated injured troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, but they say what they saw in Haiti was nothing they've ever experienced before.
To see these injuries and know how it happened, that it's not an everyday thing, they're not in a war zone, to take care of children, that was hard.
It's one thing to take care of a child, but when you're in a loud aircraft, he doesn't speak English, and you're using basic thumbs up, thumbs down, smiling, stuff like that to try and treat him. It's really tough.
As tough as the mission may have been, for many, it's success stories like these rescued orphans that fueled the unwavering resolve and commitment of the men and women of the armed forces. And tomorrow we land in Haiti and talk to the men and women who helped rescue the orphan children.
Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.